Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. We'll be back in session. Madam Clerk.
Item 31 is from Information Technology to approve using general fund monies to pay additional licensing fees for satellite imagery that would provide ability to share county licensed imagery with state and local agencies and make public benefit findings for the expenditure.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Board.
Morning.
I believe that the board members are all aware that the county has commissioned 2 different collections of aerial imagery over the past year. The most recent one was at the very end of August of last year. That was commissioned out of cannabis registration funds. It has also provided great value to the tree mortality efforts that have gone on and will be used for other areas as well. Part of the licensing agreement that we have with the company that we've done business with, Geo North, is that we can pay a fee of 20% of what it costs for them to collect the images and do initial processing. We can then make those images available to any or all that we would choose, state and local agencies, for a fixed fee, that 20%, which is a little over, well, it's $8,636. In a similar fashion, we could offer that up to any federal agency, whether it would be FEMA or the Forestry Service, for that same price. That is for that one set of images. If we were going to do it again, if we were going to do another collection and we wanted to make it available, we would get charged again. This has come up in various meetings with local fire agencies, most notably when we've had meetings on tree mortality. And in fact, I've invited Jeff Stone to come and give us his input in terms of what the value would be for his fire agency, and you would think for the others as well. But there is, in our opinion, there is significant value that is potentially available in making these images available to these other agencies. We do not have the ability from a licensing standpoint to just give this away. I wish that were the case, but we don't. But it is to me it feels like a very reasonable approach that we could be charged once and make it available to any state and local agency. I am going to ask Jeff to come up in a minute, and then also our GIS coordinator, so that you can understand a little bit about what it is that we will actually be able to provide. So I would like to invite Jeff to come up and speak a little bit on behalf of Central Fire and what benefits they could achieve with these images.
Jeff Stone, I'm the fire chief for Central Calaveras Fire up in Mountain Ranch. We have a fairly robust mapping program at our fire district, in large part because we have a volunteer cartographer who has an interest and a passion in maps and everything, and he's been basically making our road maps for some 20 years or something for the district. But so what we do with this type of GIS data that we get from a number of sources, including the things that the county currently has basically publicly available, is we take that information and then we incorporate that into our own internal mapping products. We basically have a large map book where we have a listing of every road in our fire district. And essentially what we do is we take these aerial overview images and we go out and we actually drive those streets. And we take note of things that we think might be important if we later respond out there in emergency. So we look for things like water sources, areas where the road might be narrow, bridges that might not support our fire apparatus, things like that. We bring that back, we put it into our map book, and of course with advances in technology, more and more we've been able to digitize this information. And so reason that I'm here today is because I think the value to us as a fire district is probably fairly evident, but what I want to kind of demonstrate is the value of us being able to turn around and share this information back with you that's the importance of, because like I say, we take the basic information we have, we tailor it to our individual uses, and then we then share that back with other fire districts, the county sheriff's office, OES, any other state agency that has a legitimate need for that type of information. And so it's important for us to have the most up-to-date information that we start to work with. And so that's why I'm asking that you do adopt and agree to this sharing of information, and I'm hoping that you'll see that it's not a one-way street. The fire districts, the special districts, the other state agencies and everything, we have no intention of taking this information and then just hoarding it among ourselves. We're going to tailor that information and then provide it back to Calaveras County. I think the biggest recipient immediately is probably going to be the Sheriff's Office and OES. We just finished a mapping project where we made a pre-fire plan map. One of the big things we were trying to identify was where houses and things like that were in our district. From our standpoint, if there is another big fire or whatever up in our area, we want to make sure that we can send fire engines to protect those houses. The immediate benefit that the county would see would, those same houses that we want to send fire engines to protect, we also need to send sheriff's deputies to evacuate the people that are in those houses. And the reality is reverse 911 or something like that doesn't work perfectly, particularly up in the more rural areas of the county. And really the only way that that can happen is for sheriff's deputies to go knocking on doors, getting people to evacuate. And we want to take the information that you have, enhance it, and then provide it back and share it with you. So, any questions or anything? Yes?
Yes, I do. As you know, that we get out-of-county resources coming in on a regular basis on these major incidents, and it has happened in my district, for instance, where we get on the wrong side of Single Tree Road and there's a bridge out, and so therefore the out-of-county resource does not know, and we have a problem. How will we be able to layer this piece of the GIS so that the out-of-county resources, as they're being dispatched in, are capable of accessing that information? And it's critical because they need to know where the water sources are. They need to know where road difficulties are. Will they be able to quickly access this, or is this something that will be only released on an as-needed basis?
Well, in terms of the direct access to the data, I'm probably not really able to answer that. I can tell you some of the things that we with Central Fire would be able to immediately do. And one is we're in the very final stages of, we got a grant from the state. It was one of the CAL FIRE grants for fire prevention or whatever, and we've made basically a paper map that incorporates this data. We've went and field validated all of that information, and we have created a digital version of the map that's basically accessible by if a fire engine or whatever is responding. They'd stop here in San Andreas. They would either get a copy of the map. They would scan that map with their phones using their QR code reader. It would take them to the most up-to-date current version of the map online. They would download that to their personal smartphone, iPad, tablet, whatever they had, and then they would then take that up the hill.
That leads me to my next question, because the young lady who's been working on that for you is part of the Calaveras Foothills Fire Safe Council.
Yes.
And I've had conversations with them. Their concern is from the fire safe point of view, we would like to have access to that information for tree mortality work or for their grant program. And how would they be able to incorporate, for instance, SPI, who's a partner in their grants, into the access of that information without it losing its proprietary value, if you follow my question? Yes. So maybe Mr. Moore is the better one to answer
yes.
that.
Thanks, Chief.
Thank you.
So any of the state agencies will have access to this information as well. We will reach out with help from the board in terms of what you already know of various state agencies that could have a potential interest. If they are then working with and I need to validate this from a licensing standpoint, but it's the way our licensing works. If they are in turn working with a contracted organization that is doing work specifically for them, then it is our understanding that they would be able to share that with that contract, if you will, resource that's going to turn around and do work back for them, so that they would still be able to get the value of it. In other words, it would not have to be from their own employees that would be using it. I'll be happy to validate that, but that is the understanding that we have. We've done similar things with a contractor that we have.
Okay, and there's not a Homeland Security issue involved here at all?
There is not. We've checked that out.
Okay.
There is not. That is as we have understood it. We've researched it. And part of the reason for that is because of the pervasiveness of Google Earth. So it is a time-stamped version of that, but a lot of this imagery is available very easily for anyone that wants to get into Google.
You know, my apologies for the lengthy questions, but at the
No.
same time, I see the immense value from the Fire Safe Council in what work that they're trying to get done,
Right.
and how much it will assist them with their grants that they have.
Yes.
So I would like to be sure that that's coordinated, and I'll work with Bill Fullerton from West Point to be sure that he and you work together to get
Please.
that information
That
to
would
him.
be good. I've taken up a lot of your time. I would like to invite Doug Paulzoni, our GIS coordinator, to come up for a couple of minutes and just explain a little bit to you on when we receive these images from Geo North. What is it that we do with this? This is for the board. This is for the members of the public. Chief Stone and I have talked about it as well a little bit of what it is we will present and then what they will need to do in order to achieve the benefits. Doug?
Good morning, Doug Bolzoni, GIS coordinator. We receive a couple of different versions of the photography from Geo North. So we receive it in a SID format and a TIFF format. We use the SID format at this present time to get out to all of the departments immediately. The TIFFs have to be processed and put into our system. Since we're going to a new system here in the next few months, we haven't bothered to implode that into the new system yet. We'll wait till it's up and running and then move them all over. Then what happens is we can make them what's called a service. And that service then gets put out to the web, and we can direct people, different agencies, FEMA, give them the rights to consume that service, pull that service into any ArcMap project that they're doing, and then use that service like we would here in the county.
In the short term, though, Doug, what is it that the images that we would provide for state and local agencies, what will they need to do to derive benefit immediately?
You mean right now before we get to the new system?
Yes.
Well, right now we would just provide them with probably the easiest, the simplest, the smallest is the SID files. And we would just download them to them and say, here you go ahead and use them until we get the services up and running, and then we would point them back to the service.
They would need a GIS service.
Yeah, absolutely. They would have to have a GIS system to be able to consume the service, or some third-party software that would allow them to consume the service. Okay.
Thanks.
Thank you.
One other area, Supervisor Mills, you were talking about in the event of another fire or floods or whatever. If we go back to the early hours after everyone got together with Butte Fire, the GIS team was very much involved and working directly with the emergency services team. And at the request of fire and police, the GIS team then was putting together maps and various pieces of information that were needed to support public safety. So it's a very dynamic process that goes on based on the specific needs. Any questions that we can help you with?
Supervisor Garamendi?
Thank you very much, Stan. This is more of a comment, but certainly all the fire districts in my district are very interested in this. If we could make sure we all have to work to make sure we get more fire safe grants so that they can produce products like Central Fire has been able to develop. I went to a meeting between Central and CAL FIRE and the Sheriff's Office, and it was clear the value of it. It was just right there in front of you. And then also in the tree mortality, the public agencies from water districts through our fire departments and public safety, we're all very interested in this. So I know there's a great deal of interest. I just wanted to also make a quick comment that I stuck my head in Doug and Dan's office the other day to sort of learn what they do with this data. And it is really impressive what you guys have been able to do. And I think it's not every day that Calaveras gets to lead. And I understand that we're pretty much out there in front as far as images and tree mortality and gathering this data. So thank you to you and your team.
Well, thank you, and we believe that we're from everything we're hearing, we understand that we are in a leadership position. We would be more than happy to have any of the supervisors come in and spend some time with the GIS team and get a chance to see that same little walkthrough that they provided for you.
It was real gee whiz stuff.
Okay. So really what we're here for is asking for guidance on using county general fund money of this $8,600 in order to fund this and then share it with state and local agencies.
Thank you. Public comment.
Al Segala. I'm a county realtor, and I've been using the GIS system for many years. It is so convenient. It's incredible. You could take your index, just put it on a map. It'll show the outline of that parcel, and then it'll also give the information about that parcel, including the address. It's just incredible. So what I think I'm seeing here is a refinement of an excellent system. Perhaps it's doing a higher resolution, and perhaps it's doing photographs more often. The present GIS system, sometimes the photographs are taken a year or two ago. I know that because I looked at my own house and I saw something that's no longer there. And so I think the taxpayers would be just thrilled with this higher level of information that's available, and it should be made available to the public. It should not be, just for law enforcement or fire protection, or it should be exactly like the GIS system we presently have, except it'd be a higher quality. I hope that you can accommodate that. Thank you.
Thank you, Al. Any further public comment? Okay, seeing none, any board comment? Hearing none, I would entertain a motion.
So moved.
Moved by Supervisor Garamendi. I want to make sure your mic was on. Second, please.
Second.
Second by Supervisor Tofinelli. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed by saying no. Motion carries 5-0 unanimous.
Thank you, Board.
Thank you, Stan. Good work. Madam Clerk.
Item 32 is from the Building Department to approve a contract amendment for Bureau Veritas North America to provide building inspection, plan review, and related services for a total amount not to exceed $215,000, expiring December 31st, 2017.
Do we have a presentation? Oh, Mr. Barr.
Good afternoon, Todd Barr with the Building Department. This particular contract, starting to get low on funding. We need to get this money to finish out the remainder of the year. Bureau Veritas does all of our fire prevention inspections, plan review, that is assigned to the development of procedures pertaining to some fire safe regulations that have that fall under Calaveras County at this time.
Okay. Any further? Public comment on this issue?
Al Segala, Taxpayer Association. I understand that there's many smaller jurisdictions in California and all across the United States that are using private services for some typically government functions. Apparently that's what's occurring here. One of the things that probably we would want to look at, maybe in a study session, is a comparison of the bottom line cost to the taxpayer using this system or a private system. Apparently, the private system right now is very much needed and it's being used. But thinking long-term, we need to think about that and then establish policy which is in the best interest of the taxpayer. One of the, that's a question. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I'll just make one comment concerning that. This company is retained on a part-time basis. In a rural county like ours, we need 2 to 3 days a week under for the fire people to do their thing, to do the plan check and do the inspections, and that's all we need. So therefore, this is the most economical way for us to actually accomplish this at this time.
Thank you. Any further public comment? I'll bring it to the board for comment or questions. Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
Moved by Supervisor Mills,
Second.
second by Supervisor Clapp. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed by saying no. Motion carries 5-0 unanimous. Madam Clerk?
Item 33 is from the Building Department to approve the contract amendment with West Coast Code Consultants amending Exhibit B compensation for building official services for an amount not to exceed $215,000.
Mr. Barr?
This particular contract also pertains to specialties within the department. Again, as the board knows, there's been a lot of unforeseen things that happened within the building department this year, for lack of a better word. Things just kind of seem to snowball on us, and I think they're going to continue that way. But this particular contract does provide at this time some building official services. It also provides plan review, and it augments our inspector staff with a contract inspector to make sure that we don't fall behind on the building inspections that are occurring.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Barr. Any further comment by the public? Questions of the board? Or by the board?
It says fire protection plan review. Local fire departments don't review building plans.
They do not. The local fire departments review commercial plans at this time. They do not review residential. The different jurisdictions handle things differently. For instance, Evis Pass is the one that really has their own adopted code that augments the fire safe regulations that we currently follow. The other jurisdictions, basically, it's a general review of the plans and the use of the building to determine and or suggest what fire prevention actions may need to be taken within those structures.
So they don't sign off?
Yes, they do.
They do sign
They
off.
do see them.
Yes, I know that.
They do not actually review the building plans. They will make a suggestion on access, fire sprinklers, like I said, the fire prevention measures.
Okay,
They see every set of commercial plans,
but not residential?
not residential.
Even with the new laws about sprinklers and so forth, they do not see those plans?
That's correct. There is,
This has to do with residential plans?
both of these have to do with residential plans, okay, and commercial plans. Now, the Bureau of Veritas is the one that does most of the fire protection stuff and does the plan review. We have a guy that was a fire marshal that sits in that chair and does that on a part-time basis.
So you're saying Foothill and Copper don't have their own set of codes, per se, for review?
I don't believe that they've amended any fire safe regulations that have been provided by the state, no.
All right.
All right?
Supervisor Garamendi?
Just a quick question, Todd, sorry. This item for this amount, this covers the building official services. So that's Mr. Renner, I assume, as a consultant to us. So
Yes.
So if when we hire a full-time building official, we're not likely to spend all this money, assuming how long out does this?
We are not,
take?
I don't think that we're likely to spend all this money, no. I thought that we ought to put enough in there to make sure we got through the year, and it was included actually in budget adjustments that I did submit to make sure that we got through the year.
Okay, so if everything, this would take us for a full year.
This should take us right through the end of this year and until we
Calendar
need
year.
it.
Okay, through the calendar year.
Yeah, through the fiscal year.
Fiscal
At the end of this fiscal year, the plan right now is actually to determine what outside inspector services we may need or outside plan review. You have to understand with the fire, it's up and down. We get a flood of plans, and then I think what we do is we run out of contractors to actually build those houses. So we're not getting things submitted. So it's kind of an up and down thing. You get a flood, and then it slows down and you get small stuff.
Right, but for the
So-
building official piece of that budget,
The building official piece should finish this fiscal year out, should be needed.
Thank you, Mr. Barr. Any further questions?
Yeah. Mr. Barr?
Supervisor Mills.
Mr. Barr, roller skates here. Sorry.
You're getting a workout there, huh?
That's all right. I'm getting the steps in, right?
So you're comfortable with the level of response that you're getting to the demand as it's coming in right now? They're keeping up with the pace of the work that is needing to be handled?
As far as the building department?
Yes.
The building department, we are keeping up with the pace as it needs to be handled. There are times when we get a little backed up, but we're not short any hustle over there, no. We're
Yeah,
doing
you
good.
know that contractors show up and they want it tomorrow or this afternoon.
Absolutely,
And-
absolutely.
And I just wanted to be sure that we're doing everything we can to not delay
Most
them
plans,
too much.
like for instance, most plans right now, we're still getting out and getting processed and ready to issue within 10 days. Inspections are still within 24 hours. We have that third inspector that's contract. If we start to get flooded, we bring him in. If we have a guy that needs his vacation time or is taking vacation time, we bring that third inspector in.
You did what you got.
Okay?
Good, thank you.
Any further questions from the board? Public comment? Mr. Segala?
Thank you. Al Segala, Taxpayer Association. One of the problems we have in fire is loss of insurance and getting new insurance. It's very expensive to do that. And it just seems to me that if homes are constructed in a fire-safe way, with a steel roof, maybe stucco walls, maybe shields over the gutters so the leaves don't go in the gutters. I think there's things that could be done at the building approval stage that could quickly be identified as to the level of safety that that structure would have in a fire. An A structure could be, everything just right, including distance from flammables in trees and things. And then maybe a D could be a fire trap. Well, if such a thing was set up, it would then be possible for people responsible for fire policies to be able to have a sliding scale as to what they would charge for their service, how much the fire insurance would cost. To me, this is really a no-brainer, but no one seems to be talking about it. Perhaps you will.
Thank you, Mr. Segala. Any further public comment? Hearing none, I'll bring it back to the board for comment or questions. Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
Moved by Supervisor Mills,
second?
second by Supervisor Garamendi. All in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Opposed by saying no. Motion carries 5-0 unanimous. Thank you, gentlemen. Madam Clerk.
Item 34 is from Code Compliance to approve a contract with the California Highway Patrol to provide civil standbys related services for Calaveras County Code Enforcement officers for a total amount not to exceed $150,000 and expiring on March 31st, 2019.
Hello, Chairman, Board. I'm Ethan Turner, Deputy County Counsel. I represent code enforcement with regard to all marijuana-related issues. This contract is a larger continuation of the $50,000 contract, which is just now expiring because we've run out of funding. This contract would allow code enforcement, per the direction of Mike Renner, who couldn't be here today, to be accompanied by peace officers as they inspect cultivation sites for the remainder of the year. We don't necessarily know that we're going to make it through the entire $150,000, but it will be billed as we go, and all funds are going to be coming out of the regulatory fee fund. If there's any questions, I'd be happy to address them. And Lieutenant Warren from the commander of the CHP office has been kind enough to join us today if you have any questions that I might not be able to answer.
Questions by the board?
Can I get a ticket fixed?
Probably not.
Ladies and gentlemen, I do have a question.
Yes.
The existing contract was originally for 50,000.
Yeah.
How many inspections was actually required by CHP?
They were used on a twice per week basis, and they got as many as, I think, 4 to 6 inspections done per day during, so there was probably 8 to 12 inspections per week while they were with us. I mean, they went out last week, and we'll be going out again this week.
Could I speak with Lieutenant, please?
Absolutely. Lieutenant? Thank you.
Lieutenant, thank you for coming. I know it's a busy day for you.
No problem.
Number one, how's your officers involved in the shooting this weekend over on High Five? Do you have any information on that?
Not at this point, I don't.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
I want to make sure that everybody understands the role that the CHP will play in this with the Sheriff's Department. Obviously, it's worked in the past, a very near past, but I want to make sure everybody understands. Lieutenant, this is on a per-call basis, and what exactly is your responsibilities under this contract?
We currently have a schedule 2 days a week. We go out, we pre-plan it so we know what resources we're going to need. But essentially, it's just to provide protection there for the code enforcement officers. That's strictly our role.
Excellent. And it's my understanding that this contract is in place because the current status of the Sheriff's Department is not adequate enough to provide protection for our code compliance. And that's how come we have CHP give us a hand. Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
If I can make a quick comment, Mr. Chair.
Sure.
Lieutenant, I've gotten, obviously you're up in my district doing a lot of work on a regular basis. Your officers are, and I've got nothing but positive responses from constituents as to the professionalism and willingness to work with people. So thank you very much, and thank your
It's
officers.
good to hear. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Take that back to the guys, would you please?
I will,
Lieutenant?
absolutely. Absolutely.
Any further comments? Any public comment? Hearing none, we'll bring it back to the board. Any further question? I would entertain a motion.
So moved.
Moved by Supervisor Clapp,
Second.
second by Supervisor Tofinelli. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed by saying no. Hearing none, motion carries 5-0 unanimous. Thank you, Lieutenant.
Thank you,
for
guys.
compliance.
Thank you very much.
Madam Clerk?
Item 35 is from Public Works to authorize the board chair to execute a First Amendment to the Professional Services Agreement between Calaveras County and Geologic Associates Incorporated for environmental monitoring services at the Rock Creek and Red Hill solid waste facilities for an additional amount of $137,321 and a new contract total not to exceed $760,119.
Mr. Krovitz.
Thank you. Jeff Krovitz, Public Works. This item is to extend an existing contract for specialized professional services at both the Red Hill closed landfill site and the Rock Creek current landfill. Geologics provides a lot of very specialized project management, testing, reporting to the state regulatory agencies for the work that we do. Some of the work that they perform within their current contract is the monitoring of the methane gas collection system and the flares, the monitoring of water quality coming out to the leachate pond, and then the surface water that travels across the landfill facility to make sure that we're not having pollutants introduced by the operation of our landfill. At the Red Hill site, the closed site, we've been recently, especially this year, having some problems with potential contamination of leachate water by groundwater due to the high volumes of water that we are getting flowing through the subsurface of the site. The regional board has asked us to expand some of the testing and reporting so that we can measure if indeed that is groundwater that potentially is adding to our leachate, and if we have methodology of separating those from each other so that we don't continue to treat stormwater, which is otherwise clean. The expansion of this contract is to take care of a number of unanticipated professional services that we do not have on staff for both the Red Hill and the Rock Creek site. So this is a multi-year task agreement, and we are adding, a fair amount of money to this contract. However, we believe that it's justified and well within our current budget, and it's also a requirement of our regulators. Any questions?
No, thank you. Any questions of Mr. Crovus by the board?
Well, not so much a question, but just a comment. Because of the heavy rain situation this spring, I'm sure that's exacerbated the problem. The point is that we're not going to really foresee that to be a continuing issue for you, do you?
What I foresee is a couple of things. One, I need to understand, or Public Works needs to understand the causation of this. And so there is some specialty analysis, including laboratory analysis, that we need to perform. And secondly, we also have some issues that were brought to our knowledge this year that we never conceived of at Red Hill, which is storage volume within the two leachate ponds, Pond A, Pond B. We came very close to overtopping, and both those ponds are located adjacent to a creek. So overtopping those leachate ponds is not an option for us. So work is required for us to be able to, A, reduce the volume going to the leachate ponds if possible, or to develop an emergency procedure wherein we can accommodate additional groundwater from our closed landfill cells into these leachate ponds without spilling.
Excellent.
Thank you. Any further questions? Any public comment? Hearing none, we'll bring it back to the board. I would entertain a motion. Moved by Supervisor Clapp. Second request.
I'll second it.
Second by Supervisor Mills. All in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Opposed by saying no. Motion carries 5-0, unanimous. Madam Clerk?
Item 36 is also from Public Works to adopt a resolution designating the applicant's agents for non-state agencies for the purpose of obtaining certain federal financial assistance for disaster recovery. This applicant designation is a requirement for all eligible non-state agencies to receive reimbursement funding for disaster recovery expenditures. Current estimates for 2017 storm damage repair exceed $5 million. Of the eligible amount, 75% of expenditures may be reimbursed through FEMA. 75% of the remaining 25% may be reimbursed through Cal OES, and the remaining 6.25% is a local match requirement of disaster recovery programs.
Mr. Crovus.
Thank you, Jeff Crivitz, Public Works. This is a routine item for non-routine disasters. And what this item does, this action by the elected body, allows the county to designate individuals who are empowered to negotiate and accept monies on behalf of the county that are grant funded in nature due to disasters. So this was done for the Butte fire disaster. I don't believe that it was done for tree mortality, as it was only a state designation and not a federal designation, and this is a required federal form. But we need to do it again for the 2017 storms. And this time we checked a box so that any disasters that are state and federally declared within the next 3 years would also be encompassed by this form. So that is the nature of this action. Questions?
Any questions by the board?
Yes, I have one, and that is if we're going to be setting aside a local match of 6.25%, will we be establishing an earmarked reserve fund for that purpose? Where the funds will be coming from, or where will the money be coming from? Because often with grants, you're paying in advance of the completion of the work and the receiving of the money from the state or federal government. So,
Supervisor Mills, I'm hearing two questions in that.
in a way you are. I'm sorry.
So the first question is, whereabouts or from what fund do we anticipate the match coming? And question number two is, how are you going to fund the work since the county is required to pay it and then seek reimbursement?
Correct.
Am I correct?
Excellent way to look at it.
Okay. So in terms of identification of where the funds will be coming from, I've been working with CAO Lopez, and will continue to work with him to try to identify those over the period of time that they will be expended. Butte Fire funds, with certain extensions to some of the programs, I anticipate will take another 2 to 3 years. And the matches vary depending on the program, the administrator, the recipient, and the subrecipient. And the storm disaster recovery is similar in nature. So what we are attempting to do is to sit down and map out what our anticipated local matches are over a period of time so that we can then identify how we're going to fund it over time. In terms of the repayment, most of these, once the first payment has been received, become fairly automatic. So we're not talking about stretching the county's finances out much more than 60 to 90 days at a time. So we have to verify or guarantee that we have enough float as we're doing this work. I have a very similar situation with my highway bridge program. Within Public Works, I don't have reserves enough to be able to put 3 bridges into construction consecutively, because I could very well be burning $1.5 million a month on each project. So, and I don't have, or Public Works doesn't have the wherewithal to cash fund up to $5 million a month. So, what I will say is that we are working to figure that out and bring it to the board in terms of the sources of the match funding, as well as provide the board with knowledge of the anticipated timeline for when this funding would be required as kind of a curve.
Yeah, and we know that this may go out 3 years to some degree with some of it. And for that reason, as long as we can see what the cash flow needs are going to be over a 3-month, 6-month, 9-month period, then we can start to make our adjustments so that we have the money meeting the need. So we're not slowing down on a project or eliminating projects from the system simply because we don't have the necessary float to carry them out. So that's the reason for my concern, is I wanted to be sure everybody's on the same page here with, we need you to get your work done, and how do we help you to get that done?
Aesthetic that we are talking about this in a public forum.
Exactly. Thank you.
Further comments by the board? Mr. Krobus, I have one issue.
Okay.
In this fund, is the temporary bridge project part of this 5.4 mil, or is it separate?
The estimate that I had, and I gave the board early or late January, I believe it was late January, or was it mid-February? I can't even remember. These months seem to roll into each other. In February, I believe was 5.4 to 5.7 million.
Okay.
Since then, every time I go out into the field and relook at the condition and the storm damage, I see more. So just to give you an example, Gwynn Mine was raised this morning by Mr. Pitto, who owns several pieces of property on Gwynn Mine Road. In the initial January storm, we had 2 slides where the road slid out and part of the pavement ended up down in a creek and flowing away. In the second 2 storms of February, those 2 sites got worse, and we added an additional 3 sites. When I went down at the beginning of March to try to quantify the damage with a contractor and my road superintendent, we found 7 sites. And depending on how we execute these repairs, under an emergency or under a public contract, the cost could be anywhere between $400,000 and $750,000 for Gwynn Mine Road alone. So I also went out, I think a week ago Friday, to Jesus Maria to look at 2 sites of culvert damage, which I thought was the extent of our damage on that federal aid eligible road, which is funded through Federal Highways and Caltrans, with the county as a subrecipient. And what I realized is that the 2 culvert sites obviously need some work, and it is somewhat expensive. There was significantly more damage further up the road that is even more expensive. So we will be having our field meeting with Caltrans to verify the eligibility of that. I received notice yesterday from Caltrans that FEMA or Federal Highway has approved approval of federal aid eligible projects for permanent repairs as well as emergency opening under the same accelerated program. That gives Public Works the ability to begin repairs on Jesus Maria, which is a federal aid eligible road, immediately.
All right. I think you better stop looking for damage.
I don't think I should. I think I need to keep looking.
Any further questions from the board? Any public comment? Hearing none, I'll bring it back to the board. Entertain a motion.
So moved.
Moved by Supervisor Mills. Second by Supervisor Garamendi. All in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Opposed by no? Motion carries 5-0, unanimous.
Gentlemen,
Mr.
thank you. I will forward the signed resolution to Cal OES as soon as I receive it, and hopefully I will have more immediate news concerning Blagan following that submittal.
Thank you, Mr. Cruz. Madam Clerk?
Item 37 is from the Board of Supervisors to appoint a 2017 second alternate for the RCRC Environmental Joint Powers Authority. Supervisor Garamendi, do you want to make comment on this?
Thank you very much. As you guys are aware, I'm the delegate to the RCRC as well as the Environmental Joint Powers Authority. I attended the first meeting of this and quickly learned this is a very technical group on garbage and recycling, and most counties designate a staff member who's an expert in this field to attend as a second alternate, so they gather the information. So we brought this back to the board, and Public Works designated a person to serve in that role. It's an alternate, we'll still have our vote, but to share that technical knowledge, which would is a little bit beyond my depth.
So actually, Public Works has made a recommendation of 2 staff members. I believe so if we designated both, then if one could not make it, then the other one could act accordingly. So the names that they put forward were John O'Leary, who is the Integrated Waste Manager, and Eric Van Erden, who is the Recycling Coordinator.
Any public comment on this issue? Hearing none, I'll bring it back to the board for comment or question. Hearing none, I'd entertain a motion.
So
Moved by Supervisor Mills,
Second,
second by Supervisor Tofinelli? Garamendi.
beat him
Okay.
to it.
All right. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed by saying no. Motion carries 5-0, unanimous.
So just to clarify, that's for submitting the 2 staff members' names.
The 2 named
Thank you.
staff members. Madam Clerk?
Item 38 is also from the Board of Supervisors to appoint the appointment of applicants to serve on various committees, commissions, advisory boards, and county service areas. We have several applications for several committees, so normally I will read them all off, and you would act at one time.
Okay.
Is that satisfactory? Okay. So the first is for the Commission on Aging. one vacancy for a term expiring December 31st, 2019. It's for District 2. We have an application from Beth Jean Whitke. For the Children's and Family First, Calaveras First 5, we have a vacancy for a term ending December 31st, 2019 for the Health and Human Services Director, and we have an application from Kristen Brinks. For the Fish and Game Commission, we have a vacancy for a term ending December 31st, 2018 for District 2, and an application has been received from Gordon Long. And for the Public Educational and Governmental PEG Television Commission, we have a vacancy for a term ending December 31st, 2018 for District 1. An application has been received from Dale Baker. And we have a vacancy for a term ending December 31st, 2018 for a government representative. An application has been received from Brian Moss, who is the incumbent.
Any public comment? Hearing none, I'll bring it back to the board. Comments or questions? Hearing none, entertain a motion to accept all named parties.
So moved.
Moved by Supervisor Garamendi.
Second.
Second by Supervisor Mills. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed by saying no. Hearing none, motion carries 5-0 unanimous.
Thank you for your service.
Supervisor announcements. In compliance with AB 1234, chaptered as Government Code Section 53232.3D, this is the time for board members to report on meetings attended on behalf of the county and to carry out their duties as county supervisor.
Okay, we can start with Supervisor Clapp.
I attended an IHSS meeting, and they're putting it together to have appointed officers yet. I think they're going to do that next month. And I went to a Park and Recs Commission meeting last night, and they're starting to get their part together.
Supervisor Clapp, could you turn on your microphone for us?
This is just my pay grade,
There you go.
and no reflection on the board of
You just
that
got
comment. Well, anyway, I attended a park commission meeting last night, and they're starting to get their organization together and stuff, and I think they'll do quite well. And probably on the IHSS, I'm gonna try to have them come soon to the board, because we're their board and stuff, and then we could probably have direction for them and stuff. I'd like to get something like that going.
Thank you, Supervisor Clapp. Supervisor Tofinelli, microphone. Thank you.
The microphone on?
Yeah, it's on now.
I attended a LAFCO meeting last Monday here. Also met yesterday with the JPA, which is the Central Sierra Child Protection Agency. And I want to announce that I'm having a town hall meeting on April 13th in Valley Springs. And there'll be many topics. So one of the topics that we'll be touching on is I will have Cal Waste there. Cal Waste will have some officials there willing to answer all the questions as the controversy grows. I still get calls. I got 2 yesterday on the rate increases, so I put this together, including them, so any questions out there people have and what they can do and how we got to where we are can be answered, Cal Waste. And then I will have one in San Andreas. I'm looking at the 27th of April for that one at the town hall here.
Gary, what time is that one in Valley Springs?
It will be at 6 o'clock. It should be at the Vets Hall at 6 o'clock to 7:30, 8 o'clock.
Thank you.
Okay.
Supervisor Mills.
Okay. Be sure the mic's on. March 16th, Thursday, I met with the Copperopolis Lake Tulloch Homeowners Association over the proposed intersection at Copper Cove Drive in Little John. Also present was Planning Director Peter Maurer, reported out the status of other projects in the area, including the community plan update, general plan update that will be taking place. Also attended the Chamber of Commerce mixer at Greenhorn Creek, had staff present there until we could arrive to discuss some of the economic opportunities and how to work with the ROP program with the schools. Saturday, March 18th, attended Murphy's Irish Days, was on the float for the Calaveras Animal Disaster Shelter. Discussed the need for the group to talk to the OES coordinator, set up an MOU in advance of the next major incident so they can understand the need for the paperwork trail that they have to do. Monday, March 20th, met with multiple members of staff on one department's budget for this year and to understand their goals and cost accounting on line items. Attended Solid Waste Task Force meeting with Supervisor Oliveira to discuss the RFP for project manager, develop the integrated solid waste management strategy, and attended LAFCO. I was in the audience for that. Remember, we went through the Mark Twain Healthcare MSR. On Wednesday, March 22nd, attended Mark Twain Healthcare District Board meeting, update on budget, looking at needs assessment with its limitations and duplication as other agencies also do needs assessments. And then the status of the pop care in Valley Springs is moving forward. It's about half the size of what they really were talking about originally. Attended Calaveras County Water District meeting as they developed their first 5-year capital improvement plan that I can even talk about in recent history, which is $58 million worth of committed projects, and it was accepted along with an approval to create a groundwater sustainability authority under an MOU with Stanislaus County. Attended the Altamont Maloney's fire meeting. We had an open discussion on the district's challenges. They're wanting to have LAFCO look at sphere of influence so that we can get the correct fire department into remote areas in a timely manner. An example would be Murphy's Pines. March 23rd, Thursday, attended Calaveras Foothills Fire Safe Council, completed details on requirements for reimbursing private citizens under tree mortality grant to begin shortly and will be posted on our county website. Also discussed a new PG&E grant that has been made available, $200,000 to Calaveras County only. March 24th, Friday, met with Melissa Eads and their interim replacement of Council of Governments, a general review of their budget and proposed changes for next year. March 25th, Saturday, attended Community Service District 4 meeting with 30 people in attendance. A former member of CSA 12 was also there to review projects, repair needs from spring storms. And we talked about the A87 costs. March 27th, Monday, met with staff over next year's goals and budget, the A87 requirements as policy statements, and a discussion on COG and JP opportunities. I want to thank the staff personally for removing the gate on Connor Estates Drive that's been blocking public access to the lake for a number of years. It went down yesterday. I worked with Community Service District Number 2 on how they can be assisted with storm damage repairs. And I would like to ask the board for polling when we're completed with this report out.
Okay. Recommendation under consideration. Supervisor Garamendi.
Thank you very much. I attended the RCRC meeting down in Sacramento. Long discussion about SB1, which this board put a letter in support of today. It was very informative about how it's going to impact the rural counties. It seems to be the best deal we're going to probably get. I'm very impressed with the ability of RCRC and their lobbying crew. We're lucky to be a part of them. We had town halls. I did 3 of them in the district, and Moke Hill, West Point, Mountain Ranch. They were very well attended. It was a lively discussion, but very civil. And I'd like to express my appreciation to the community because a lot of different opinions, but everybody was very civil with each other, and I thought it went very well. I'd like to also make a special thank you to CAO Lopez, Jeff Krovitz, Mike Miller, Sharon Torrance, Mel Knight, the sheriff who showed up to one of the meetings. They shared a lot of really good information to the community, even tree mortality, fire recovery, all the issues going on in our district. And it really meant a lot to the people in my district to have you all attend and meet them face to face. So I really want to thank you, Manuel, and really pass that on to the staff. They did a great job, and I really appreciate it. We also I also got the privilege of going a couple hundred yards into Gary's district and doing a event at the senior center for what Lucy Thine put together, and that was fun too. There's a lot of good history amongst those citizens, and I learned a lot of things about the county. They're the right people to ask about what happened in the past, and it was a lot of fun. Also, I attended a meeting with CCWD and the chairman, but I'll let him report on that. But just a busy week. Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Garamendi. I also was a little busy, but not compared to Supervisor Mills. Just the way it rolls. On the 15th, I attended a wastewater surge tank meeting at the county facility up at the county jail. That's an ongoing problem with Public Works and the Sheriff's Department. Apparently, we've got solutions in place for that, and I'll let Captain Macedo address that if he needs to. Welcome, Captain Macedo. I'm really impressed the way things are progressing on that. I think everybody's going the same direction at the same time, and that's very important. I attended the Blagan Road community gathering, if you will. The bridge issue there was a press conference called, if you will. We were able to talk about our bridge problems, and through the efforts of Public Works Director Crovis and FEMA and things of that sort, looks like we have a solution in sight. We're just waiting for one final authorization. I was hoping that would be coming by today, and it has not, but I'm looking in the very near future for that. That's actually installation of a temporary bridge to allow public access to White Pines Park, the Moose Lodge, SPI, things of that sort. Very important to the Arnold community. I attended Irish Days and actually helped out by volunteering for a couple hours for the beer booth. I'm not drinking, just pouring. And I did that at the request of our planning commissioner, our planning director, Peter Maurer. And what a great turnout. I'll tell you that. I think that was one of the most successful events we've seen in Murphy's. Estimates anywhere from 15 to 18,000 people, and it's growing by year. I think we're probably at a point now we need a bigger town. One of the most important things is I was unaware of any problems. Usually there's some problems there, but to be quite honest with you, I understand we didn't have any serious problems whatsoever, so that was good. That was good. It turned it into a family event, as much as you can have with Irish beer, but the bottom line is it was very successful. Everybody enjoyed a good time. I attended a Native Sons breakfast on Sunday morning, hosted by the Lions Club out of Murphy's. That's a great place to actually come on in and say hi, folks, on an unofficial basis. I'm very appreciative of all the folks come up and say hi and want to talk and about this or that, but mostly just to say hi and say thanks. Ladies and gentlemen, being a supervisor, as Supervisor Tofanelli has experience in his past experiences, our new supervisors and myself, that goes a long way. It goes a long way. Sometimes only contact you get is negative. But little things like, thanks, you're doing a good job, or just a thank you note. One of my constituents sent a thank you note to the board, and that's really appreciated, like I said. I attended the Evans Pass Fire District Board meeting. I tried to attend that. I was able to find out what's going on fire-wise, if you will, and what's happening with our department up there. I'm very proud to say that I think we have one of the finest fire districts, probably in the state. I'm very proud of those folks. Chief Johnson and their board of directors are doing a fine job. They keep a handle on things, they keep expenses down, and still provide great public service. I attended an agenda review with Vice Chair Supervisor Garamendi. Just to qualify that, I'm a firm believer in making sure that your chair and your vice chair are on the same page in case something should happen. One steps right in and takes over when they have to. And I appreciate the effort that Supervisor Garamendi does, and all the board. When I've asked something of this board, they're first to step up to the plate, be it a phone call, be it an email, be it a situation in my district or situation in their district. I think this board is gelling, and it's a good gel. So. Excuse me, my battery went dead in my iPad. On the 28th is today. I have no plans, but in the future, I will be attending a national conference for NACO, National Association of Counties, and also CSAC later on in the year. Very important that we stay politically involved with those groups. With NACO, we have access to nationwide supervisors and our politicians back in D.C. I did attend a meeting with Vice Chair Garamendi with CCWD. They are in the process of putting together a coalition, if you will, regarding water rights, and it looks like we're going to have a multi-agency program set up. This is to make sure that our water rights are protected here in Calaveras County, and I'm looking forward to be a pretty good participant in that with Vice Chair Garamendi. Excuse me. I would like to announce that I am also going to be holding a series of mini town hall meetings, but I'm going to be structured a little bit differently. I'm going to be requesting, which I've already done by my Facebook page, Michael Oliveira, Supervisor, District 3, of homeowner associations, business associations, community groups, community service groups, to invite me to their meetings, so I cannot steal the time of the general meetings. And I say that because normally when I go to a community meeting, it's usually taking the time that they've slotted for their meetings. So I'm requesting that if you if you want me to come speak, please let me know via email, through my county email. I'll be happy to schedule that for you. I will be attending those. I'll keep that date, and that'll be solely for that group, if you will, to address their concerns or any concerns in the county. I term that to be a status of the county, if you will, and I hope that the participation will be greatly appreciated. It already has. I've already scheduled several meetings. In addition to that, I've kind of done a no-no if you want to be in politics. I've listed my schedule on my Facebook page for the coming week, giving an opportunity for my constituents or our citizens in District 3, even in the county, to come over and attend some of those meetings. They're run normally under the same rules we run here, and there's public comment time, and that's a great opportunity to voice your opinion, state your position on certain issues, and how it affects you. So that invitation is open, and I'm going to try it for the month of April, see how busy I get. Having said that, I have no other things other than the poll request by Supervisor Mills.
Well, actually, it's twofold. First of all, I'd like to thank CAO Lopez for his assistance with the county over the last 3 months. And
He's not gone yet.
I know you're not gone yet, but I just wanted to personally thank you for your time and your willingness to give us a sense of stability as we move forward right now. That's very important. As we bring on a new CAO, there are two things that I would like to have the board think about. One is possibility of having a retreat sometime towards the end of April for the purpose of developing a consensus on what our goals and our strategies are going to be for this county over the next 2 years. And then maybe even bring the department heads in after that to have a discussion with them so that they thoroughly understand, so we can get some alignment between the various pieces of our organization. Everybody can be on the same page. It isn't anything that needs to be done right now. I just like to have that thought started now. But the other piece is the budget process. I'm so used to being fully engaged in it from my positions before, and I would like to have asked that the board consider myself and possibly even Supervisor Garamendi being involved in that, so that we can get a full understanding as our new CAO comes on board and be engaged in the discussions, rather than wait until the end of June to see the final result, so to speak.
Okay. Let's take item 1 first. It's regarding the retreat, if you will. This will be, as I understand it correctly, after our new CAO takes his seat on April 3rd, I believe. April 3rd.
Yes, he'll be here on April 3rd.
Yeah. And hopefully you'll be with him. You're not going to leave earlier?
I won't leave it before then.
Okay. All right.
just to be a little more clear on that, I did offer to be with him as long as he felt there was a need. I don't want to be just there for no reason, but if he has some request of me, I'll certainly be able to help him.
Thank you very much, CEO Lopez. Anyway, having that in mind and considering once we have that retreat, we could include our department heads, poll by roll call. Supervisor Tofinelli?
Sure.
Mike? Yes. Okay. Supervisor Garamendi? Sure. Supervisor Clapp?
Aye, man.
Supervisor Mills? Definitely. And I also concur.
We're going to rename you Mike.
Too many moving parts. The second part of the request for the budget, CEO Ryan, I'm going to have you comment on this. Oh, not Ryan, I'm sorry, CEO Lopez. Could you comment on this as far as procedure in the past and what needs to be done, and can we do this, and what's your views?
Mr. Chairman, board members, I believe in the past you have had a couple of board members sitting in on that. I have not done enough inquiry to find out if that's fact, but I have heard that that's the case. I personally do not have any experience with that where board members have been involved. It is a multi-pronged effort. I think I've mentioned in the past that my intention is to meet with all the department heads, get their input, first get their input, then meet with them and try to come up with a reasonable budget to present to the board. And then we have other staff that are actually working on the numbers. I don't have any concern about board members being involved. My concern actually would be how involved a board member would want to be, because there are a lot of things going on. Sometimes just dropping in and dropping out might be more difficult than not being there at all. But if that's the board's desire, we can make it work. But it's not something that I'm familiar with. We'll have to kind of play it by ear to a certain extent.
Any future board comment?
Well, I think what I would do is I would use the same strategy that I did at CCWD, since I chaired the finance committee there. And the finance committee, in essence, was the one that vetted the majority of the sketchy details to the budget, rather than have the time spent at a full board level to be sure that we've got the kinks worked out and all of those little pieces are in place before it comes to the full board. And then everybody's not spending hours and hours sitting here discussing it. We just have two board members that are working with staff to get that detail done. I've done it before in corporate as well as agency. So
And your experience, Supervisor, would be valuable, because again, I don't have that experience. I've done a number of budgets, but never with a committee. But that would be very helpful if, in fact, the board appoints you and others to be on there to kind of get your guidance on how that has
And
worked.
I could not see ourselves jumping in and jumping out of the discussion. It would be simply that when you have some piece put together, that we could have a chance to review that as two of us, and then if there's anything that we see as kinks or that we need to have some more detail to it, it probably would be something that the whole board at some point might want to talk about. But we could eliminate a lot of time crunch issues by simply having two of us in that conversation early, rather than having the whole board and the public spend a lot of time with it later. That's the whole purpose. But I defer to the rest of the board to understand.
Supervisor Tofinelli, I know you want to speak on this issue. Your mic's on.
Hey, maybe I didn't turn it off.
Is your name Mike?
Where's Mike at? Manuel's right. There has been times when other board members have sat in during that time, but it was only specific issues. It was not during the whole process, or such as you're discussing, certain item packages, and then the members get involved. It was specific instances that we had members get involved that had some background on them. I'm kind of tossed up here on this item or not. I understand what Supervisor Mills is saying. I would be in favor of it to see how it goes, and from there we can report back to the board or what have you. Maybe discuss at some point if two people CAO coming in and sitting down and discussing that with the two members.
Supervisor Garamendi?
You know, I like the concept of this, and, you know, my instinct is to want to get into the details. At the same time, you know, we have a new CAO coming in, and I don't want to start getting in their bowl of Cheerios. No. I want them to be able to do their job. So I'm concerned about that. If we find a way to work together, I could be amenable to that. I'm happy to serve. There are people like Supervisor Tofinelli that have seen 4 budgets, and I haven't seen one county budget that I've taken to the process yet. So there's experience here that we might rely upon. But, you know, so I'm not opposed to it. I just don't want to muddy waters with the new CAO as far as roles go. And if somebody else doesn't want to do it, I'm happy to do it, but I want to rely on experience as well.
Would it make better sense to possibly just hold off on any decisions on this until we've had a chance to talk to our new CEO and see where he thinks we could fit into this entire process? This is something that we might be looking at in the second week, the second meeting in April rather than now. I don't want to make a decision now. I just want this in a discussion format right now so that we can.
And we should talk to him about that too.
Yes,
We can bring it up.
yes.
It's
I
next
don't
week,
want to
isn't
do
it?
this
So-
in a vacuum of not having him in the process,
Yeah.
okay? Just I wanted to get it
I like
started
the
now.
idea, but yeah.
Supervisor
why
Clark, do
we-
you have any comments?
No.
Okay. I would share the same position that Supervisor Tofinelli and Supervisor Garamendi share, and of course Supervisor Mills. Council, is there any problem with that? Do you see any problem with that as far as 2 supervisors, no ad hoc?
You're going to have to talk to the new CEO because he doesn't have staff right now.
I understand. Okay, all right.
Problem is that you probably.
I think that was
probably
brought up.
premature to make a decision until you talk to him and see if.
So the consensus is, let's talk to this new CAO, and then we'll decide in a couple of weeks, maybe? Excellent. Madam Clerk?
Did you have a matter that you wanted to pull the board on?
Me? Could you remind me? It's been a long day.
Pace?
Oh, yes. Thank you, Madam Clerk. My computer.
You owe her a
died.
latte.
I owe her a lot, right? There is one other issue that I'd like to poll the board on. It's something that has been brought to the attention of prior boards, and that's the PACE program. Basically, that program helps with solar electrical power for residents through their financing and things of that sort. I bring this back to the board for a poll on the request of Supervisor Mills. So do we want to hear another presentation on the PACE program as a board? We'll start with you, Supervisor Tofinelli.
Sure.
Okay. Supervisor Garamendi?
Sure.
Supervisor Platt?
Yes.
Supervisor Mills?
Sure.
You think I'm going to say no? Sure. Great. Then if you can arrange that, Madam Clerk, we'll take care of that.
We'll do that.
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
on that same issue, on the PACE, I have received 2 inquiries from firms that are interested in bringing this back to the board. They're aware that last year the board did approve an agreement with the firm called, I think, Y Green, and they would like to be added to that. I told both of them that at some point we might be able to do that. And but I don't know which direction the board is looking. Are we looking to add additional firms as they want, or to just have a general discussion and then make a decision later on the 2 firms?
I'm a firm believer in competition, if you will, but it's more importantly, I think we should have input from our tax collector, Barbara Sullivan, but I wouldn't be opposed to have 2 people. Any objection from the board? No. Is that clear direction? Madam Clerk?
Would your office be spearheading that and bringing that forward as an agenda item?
Yes, we would.
Okay.
There's no comment.
There's no public comment on this, but
You may know what it already is.
we'll have that opportunity if they come. At that point, we will conclude the general meeting. Nope, I'm sorry.
Just one announcement, if you wouldn't
I'm
mind.
sorry. Staff announcement, please.
So I just wanted to remind everyone that if you have not filed your Form 700, that the deadline is Monday, the 3rd. So if you file with the county, you would want to get that original one to me. If you file with your own special district, then you want to make sure that you get an original Form 700 filed with them.
Thank you. Any other staff announcements? That'll conclude the regular meeting.
I do have one. I was going to echo what Supervisor Mills said about thanking Manuel for stepping in for the last 3 months, and filling the position, and thank you, both from the board here and personally. And I also want to thank you for lunch today.
Oh, did you declare that?
You're very welcome, Supervisor, and thank you for keeping me from getting back to the meeting on time. Because I did hear the time, but I had to respect your position.
Okay.
Go into the spare time.
So
All
Chair,
right, go ahead, Madam.
once we adjourn, if we could take maybe a 5-minute break before starting the next meeting so that we give the videographer a chance to change DVDs.
We'll take
and-
10 minutes.
Okay.
All right, thank you. We will re-adjourn here in 10 minutes for the special meeting.